Hey everyone, I'm Nicole Gale with Guiding Echoes, the channel that is devoted to your spiritual and personal growth. And in this video, we are discussing the 5 psychic senses that enhance and strengthen your intuition. Now, just as you have 5 physical senses, which is sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste, you have 5 psychic senses too, and these psychics are known as clairs. Now, the word clair means clear. So, for example, clairvoyance, which we're going to talk about in a few moments, actually means clear seeing. Now, that's a little misleading because most of the clairs are not completely clear. However, they are intuitive. So I find that a more accurate representation of the clairs is to replace the word clair or clear with intuitive. So clairvoyance would be intuitive sight, and clairaudience would be intuitive hearing. So let's go ahead and go down the list. The first one I have for you is, of course, clairvoyance, because that is the most popular of all the clairs. Even people who have no interest in psychic abilities whatsoever have heard the term clairvoyance or clairvoyant. So clairvoyance is when you are able to see something in your mind's eye and it turns out to be accurate. Now, the universe works in mysterious ways, so sometimes you may actually see something or someone in clear detail, or you may end up seeing more of an archetype. So, for example, with me, when I do my psychic mediumship readings, I very rarely see a spirit as they appeared on Earth. I do, however, have different archetypes that spirit will work with. So, if I am doing a reading with someone and their mom comes through, I have an archetype in my mind of what a mom looks like, and I have an archetype of a grandma and a grandpa. And spirit uses those archetypes to show me who it is that I'm speaking to in the spirit world. But that's actually kind of unusual. What I have found is that most psychic mediums are able to see a visual representation of that spirit as they were in human form. So that's just one example. Other examples would be if you lost your keys and you can't find them anywhere, and all of a sudden you get this image in your head of where they are, and you think to yourself, I'm pretty sure my keys are not there. Like, I know I didn't toss my keys under the bed, but yet I'm getting this image that that's where they are, and you go and you look under your bed and whoo, there they are. Well, spirit, your intuition, was giving you a visual representation of where your keys were. And most likely, you didn't see that right in front of your eyes, right? Like, it wasn't like this projector screen just came out of nowhere and you saw your keys there. You saw them in your mind's eye, and that's how clairvoyance works. So those of you who are clairvoyant, you're going to have a lot of images that pop in your mind. You're not necessarily going to see them with your physical eyes, because that would be creepy, but they are going to pop up as visual representations in your mind's eye. So when you start to get those little visions and images, pay attention to them. They're trying to tell you something, and you may not understand them right away, and that's okay. Just start writing them down and see if they start to make sense to you later on. Second on the list is clairaudience, and this is, of course, clear hearing, but of course, as we spoke about earlier, it's going to be intuitive hearing, which means this will usually be a voice or some type of music or something, some type of audio sensation that you hear within your mind's eye. Now, I have found this to be one of the most useful out of all of the gifts because it's how I interact with my angels and spirit guides. When I have a question for the universe and I put it out there, I'm usually able to hear the answer as a still small voice in my mind. And as you continue to work on your relationship with your guides, your angels, your higher self, or even maybe your own conscious mind, you'll start to notice that the voice in your mind gets louder and louder. And that can be really beneficial, especially if you're someone who is not only intuitive, but you're inquisitive, you're philosophical, and you want to gain answers to all of those interesting life questions. So get in touch with your clairaudience by focusing more on that voice inside of your mind. Every time you start to get those thoughts in your head, pay attention, and you may even want to start writing those down as well. The next Clair that I have for you is Clairsentience, and this refers to Clair feeling. Now, these are typically intuitive feelings, and if you're an empath, chances are very good that you're also very aware of Clairsentience. So this is your intuitive feelings, your intuitive emotions. So if you are in a situation where you are talking to a friend of yours and she's got her big smile on and she's acting like everything's great, but you just kind of have this feeling in your heart and in your gut that something's off, that is your Clairsentience at work. Your Clairsentience is able to pick up on the emotions and on the hidden feelings that other people have, and they kind of arise in your own body. Like you can feel what someone else is feeling, even if they're trying to hide it. And this can be so confusing at first because you start to feel sadness or anguish or anxiety, and you're thinking to yourself, what is wrong with me? Why am I feeling this? Like everything in my life is fine right now. Like I'm actually pretty happy. So what's going on here? And once you start paying attention to your environment and the people around you, even if they're putting on a front like everything's great, within a couple days, they'll usually speak up and talk about some type of problem they were facing around the same time that you were picking up on those weird vibes. So Clairsentience is very useful in knowing how to approach people, because if you know how someone is feeling, if you can get a sense for the emotional vibration that they're in at that moment, it helps you to know how you should work with them in that moment, how you should deal with them. Also, if you are a psychic medium, you might be very sensitive to the emotions of the different people in the spirit world. So if you walk into a room and no one else is there and you kind of sense that there's a spirit nearby, maybe your clairvoyance isn't as good as it could be, and maybe your clairaudience needs a little work too, but your clairsentience is lit up. You will be able to make that connection to the spirit world based on the feelings that they are providing you with. So you'll be able to know if that spirit is sad, happy, maybe a little numb. All of that will come through with your wonderful gift of clairsentience. Next on the list is Clairalience. Now this is a fascinating one because this is clear smelling. So your sense of smell. So of course this would also be intuitive sense. But what's interesting about this one, unlike the other psychic senses we spoke about, this one usually does tend to be physical. So this means that you will smell something that no one else smells, and you usually do feel it through your physical nose, or you smell it through your physical nose. So some of the most common scents that people will pick up on are flowers, cookies, cigarettes and cigars are a really popular one, even sulfur. A lot of people will pick up on sulfur. In fact, I used to have a friend who could smell death. I know that sounds weird. She worked for an optometrist, and as her clients would come in, she had a sense of who was going to pass on within a few days to a few months. And it's because she was able to get a certain smell off of them. Now, this wasn't a scent that anyone else was picking up on. No one could smell it, just her. And she told me the story of how one day she'd gone to her friend's house, and her friend's dog had jumped right up on her lap. And as the dog was on her lap, she picked up that pungent smell of death. So she told her friend, "You need to take your dog to the vet." Her friend's like, "What are you talking about? The dog is fine." And my friend was like, "No, you don't understand. You really need to take this dog to the vet. Please don't argue with me. Just take your dog to the vet." Well, it's a good thing that she did, because as it turned out, the dog did in fact have a cancerous tumor. But there's a happy ending. Because of my friend's gift of Clairalience, they were able to remove that cancerous tumor, and the dog, in fact, lived. So you can imagine the relief that her friend had. So Clairalience is a very interesting gift because it does allow you to smell spirit and to smell just interesting things that may be around you. So if you start to notice that you pick up on different scents around other people that no one else is is picking up on. You're not going crazy. This is a psychic ability, and in order for you to understand what that means, you'll want to keep some type of a log. So yes, I know I've mentioned journaling a lot here, but it really is the best way for you to determine what these spirit messages mean. Now, last on the list is Claircognizance, and this can be the most confusing of all of the gifts because this represents a clear knowing. Now, what did we say earlier about the word clair? They're not usually clear. It's intuitive. So, claircognizance is both fascinating and terrifying because what happens with claircognizance is you just know things, but you don't know how you know them. And the way it works is usually you will be talking to someone and all of a sudden this information comes spewing out of your mouth and your friend looks at you and says, "How did you know that?" And you're like, "I have no idea." This has happened to me more times than I can count, and the interesting thing is that it turns out to be right. It's not like I opened my mouth and I meant to answer that question or I meant for this information to come out. It just kind of comes out on its own. And what's weird about it is that it doesn't come to you in the form of clairaudience. It's not a voice in your head that you hear. It's not a vision that you get in your mind. There isn't even a sense or any type of impression that you're getting, so you don't get a feeling of whether this is right or wrong. It's almost just blind knowledge that comes funneling to you. So if you have noticed that same thing where someone asks a question, all of a sudden you know the answer and you don't know how you know it, that's claircognizance at work. And this works most often when you're working with guides. I've noticed that spirit guides use this one a lot. I don't usually sense it too much with other people in the spirit world, so family members and friends in the spirit world. They're usually pretty good about using Clairaudience, Clairsentience, and Clairvoyance. But your guides, man, they can be tricky. They like to use the Claircognizance. I think it's because they like to keep us on our toes. And they're always trying to get us to trust them just a little bit more. Now, if you would like to dive into these gifts and really learn how to enhance them and strengthen them, then check out my online course. It's called Easy Ways to Strengthen Your Clairvoyance. And the reality is that clairvoyance alone is wonderful, but it's usually not enough to get the whole picture. So in this program, I teach you how to enhance and awaken all of your clairs. And all of us have one or two clairs that are going to be stronger than the other, and that's wonderful, that's fine. But we do want to fine-tune the other clairs too, so that if our clairaudience or our clairvoyance is not able to give us the whole picture, we can tune into the other clairs and in fact get the whole picture and get a clear idea of what is happening in a certain situation or scenario. So if you're a psychic medium and you're wanting to enhance your clairs, or maybe you're intuitive and you just want to enhance your ability to feel the oneness and work with your guides, or whatever the case is, check out that course. I will put a link to it in the description area down below, and of course I will have a link to it here on this video. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I would like to welcome you to the Guiding Echoes community, and I'd also like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here on this channel we talk about a lot of self-help topics, and we also talk about spiritual matters too. So if that's something you're interested in, you have come to the right place. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and also hit that little bell button too, so you can be notified when I release new videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.